Hey guys, I'm the Dragonsbeard and I'm back with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and today we're going to be hopping back into the clan boss, and we're going to be taking a deeper look at that Myth Heiress team that I showed you in the last video with Turvold, but specifically the 2-to-1 version. But we're going to be removing Turvold from the team because with him in there, it's not going to work against Spirit Affinity. What's going to happen is that with Heiress as the only Force DPS champion, then the clan boss is going to prefer to attack her because she's weak. We're going to be looking at substitute options for Turvold. You can see that I've already moved some of his gear off to whoever the new champions are going to be. And with that Force DPS champion, if we put them ahead of her in the turn order, and then also give her the Steadfast Mastery while making sure that that sub DPS does not have it, that should be enough to force the clan boss to prefer to attack that substitute and keep her protected. Because remember, in that Myth Heiress comp, she's able to cleanse any person in the team that gets stunned except for herself. Before we go over the champions, I would like to talk about the Raid Content Creator Program. So right now the channel is large enough to qualify for level 1, and I've already applied to be a part of this program. It's been a couple weeks and I haven't heard back yet, but I'm hoping that I'll get an answer soon from them. But the next goal for the channel is to get into level 2, and that's where we need 2,000 subscribers in order to be able to do that. And the important part about level 2 is that that's when I can start to do audience giveaways. So on the larger channels, when you see people doing like the gym giveaways and raffles and what have, this is the program that comes from. So if you haven't taken the time to subscribe yet, please hop down there and do that. It's completely free. It really supports the channel, and 1,300 subscribers is nuts. I think we're going to break that number before I get this video out for y'all. I want to keep doing like 1 to 2 videos a week, and this would be super helpful in order to be able to do that with the perks that they give me to be able to churn out more content, level up champions, and things like that. So I would really appreciate the support. If you guys are one of the early people that came over and helped get on board, thank you so much. It's been amazing so far, so thank you again. Okay, so when we're looking at Force DPS options that we can bring in as that stun tank, the first one that comes to mind for me would be Brackus. So Brackus has the weaken on his A2. It's a 6-hitter, so there's tons of chances for it to proc Giant Slayer. And it's also a 3-turn weaken, so when you're dealing with weak hits against Spirit, you want to debuff that when it does land, it stays on for a considerable amount of time. That way, if you weak hit, then it's still there by the time you cycle back around to the cooldown again. So when he's booked, he should have very high uptime on that weaken. The multipliers on all of his abilities are very high, and he does a lot of damage from Giant Slayer because of that 6-hit A2 as well as the 3-hit on the A3. So I don't have Brackus though. I even tried to get him during that 10x recently. So we're going to look at some other options. Out of the dwarves, I think that Geomancer is the tip-top option from them. Because he's got the weaken on the A3, and it's not actually a hit. So even with the weak affinity, he's going to have a very high uptime on that. He places the debuff without a hit, just like Draco does with his A3. And you're going to see that with that 3-turn debuff, that it's pretty much got 100% uptime because you're going to be able to lap back to that, even if you get that 3% resist, for example. So Geomancer is going to be the first one that I actually have a chance to use because I've got him and he's kitted out. He actually is the one who got most of my Turvold gear when I was building this. Other options, there's quite a few, but not as good, I think. So from the Lizardman, I have Rhazin. I've got him built. I'm going to try him out here. There's no increased defense in the team, so I don't expect him to do quite as well as what those other 2 champions would do. But he does have the weaken on his 3-turn A2 when he's booked. And then he has this 3-hit A1, so he's going to have a lot of Giant Slayer procs as an option. As a fusible champion, permanent fusion, there should be a lot of people out there that have him, and I think that throwing Rhazin in would be a good way to protect Heiress and then get a very healthy 2-key. I think that maybe even against Magic or something, he might even be able to be into a 1-key team. So a few other champions that come to mind. Demon Spawn, we've got the relatively new champion Sissia Flametongue. So she's got the 2-turn weaken that's on her A2, and she's also got the HP burn mechanic to where she can instantly tick it off and deal damage, kind of similar to what Ninja does. The thing you got to be careful with her is that she has this variation of her speed based on how many HP burns are out there. So you can't just expect her to plug in and do the exact same thing at the same speeds as what the other champions I showed you were. You just got to fool around with that in the calculator and make sure that you find a combination where she's able to stay in sync whether she has that 3-speed active or not. I have not done that yet, so I just want to kind of give that little disclaimer. If you try to plug her in and notice that it doesn't work, that's something you got to consider. And then for the Barbarians, we've got Elder Skarg, so he does not have the weaken, but he does a lot of damage. And with this A2, having the debuffs on the target in order to make him max out to do the full 4 hits shouldn't be any problem at all, because we've got Toxic Set from Heiress, we've got Decreased Defense, we've got Leech, and all that's out there. He's be able to max out that condition every single time and just put up big hits. This is one of the hardest hitting abilities in the game, as long as you can max out those 3 extra hits. Alright, so let's take a look at the champions that I've got in the teams that I'm going to show you today. So Demytha, she's in the exact same build as what she was last time around. She is just under 3k attack, she's 275 speed, crit capped with a little bit of crit damage. Again, she's not a very good offensive damage dealer, she's mostly here to make the rest of the team work. With the speed and perception set she's in, when you're plugging in your champions into the calculator, you have to put the speed and perception sets in, and you also have to put in whether they have the Lore of Steel Mastery. Those are things that can vary the true speed of the champion, and if you're at the edge of one of the speed ranges, specifically like how tight the speed ranges are on the spirit conditions that I'll show you later, you want to make sure that everything that's in the calculator is accurate, and if you're having random fails against spirit, if you're having random fails when you're trying to put together a brand new tune, always look at those true speeds and always look at those 2 things to make sure that it stays in sync. So for the next champion, that would be Seeker. So he has changed ever so slightly since the last time around. I had to add a couple glyphs to him because he needed to be just a little bit faster. So he's 4200 attack, he's 171 speed, crit capped with decent crit damage, and does not need accuracy. So the reason why I glyphed him, I'll explain in a minute, because those speed conditions that to make the team work on spirit. So for Deacon, he didn't change at all, so he is just under 4,000 attack, 186 speed, not quite crit cap, but close, and then 235 crit damage. He does need accuracy to land that decreased defense in this team. Next up would be Heiress. So I had to throw a couple glyphs at her to make her faster. She was at 241 in the old team, which is not fast enough for Spirit. She's going to take that tick of the decreased speed debuff, and if she's not over 245 speed, then it can cause it to fall out of whack on Spirit. So 3,700 attack, pretty good for as low as her base attack is. She's in toxic gear, crit capped with 151 crit damage. She does not need this accuracy in order to land the toxic debuffs. It's just what she had on the gear that I had leveled up. And then for the damage dealers, I've got Geomancer and Rhazin that I've used in the team. So for Geomancer, he's the one that snagged that Turvold gear, so he's got pretty good stats on. He's 5,700 attack, very good for as low as his base attack is. 156 speed, he's almost crit capped, and then decent crit damage, and he needs the accuracy to land the weaken as well as his HP burn, which is a significant source of his damage. So the masteries, since his passive has changed around, it would be better if you take him out of Giant Slayer and put him into War Master, because the Giant Slayer component is built into his passive now, the way that they changed him. He's going to have it be a function of the max HP, but I didn't have enough gems to kind of waste it on rotating this around, so we're going to be running him in Giant Slayer still. It's not a huge deal, but if you're trying to min-max, that's what I would do. And then as another option, I've got Rhazin built here, so let me find him. So my Rhazin, same speed, 156. He has 4,600 defense, crit capped, 256 crit damage, and then enough accuracy to land the weaken as well. So those are the champions. With his masteries, you want him in Giant Slayer just because that 3 hit on the A1. So if I was building all these masteries from scratch all the way, I would probably go support tree just to get the extra accuracy, because remember, Retribution cannot proc in one of the block damage teams because you're preventing the damage from happening. So if you go defense tree, the only thing that you're really getting out of it is deterrence. And then if you go support tree, then you could be getting Sniper and Master Hexer and Lore of Steel and the benefits of those. Just keep in mind, if you take Lore of Steel, you have to plug it in the calculator to make sure that it is properly reflected in your true speed. So normally I would be showing you the calculator at the end, but it is so extremely important to making this team work right that I'm going to kind of show it ahead of time. So I've got all the speeds plugged in here for the champions that I just showed you in their current builds, complete with their speed sets and all that. So what we need to be looking at here specifically is the true speed. So we're going to be looking at the true speed of Heiress, we're going to be looking at the true speed of Seeker, and we're going to be looking at the true speed of Geomancer. So in the Deadwood Jedi Discord, ShortOnSkillz is like a wizard when it comes to the math of working all this stuff out. So he's got these spirit rule sets that are listed as a part of the notes. So we've got 3 conditions that we need to meet in order for this to work. So Heiress needs to be over 245 speed, which as you can see, I've got her at 248 in my team, so that's perfectly fine. Then we need to also have Heiress's true speed a certain amount faster than Seeker's true speed. So I've got the calculator up here, so let me pull this up. So we've got 190.57 is Seeker speed. And then we've got to multiply that by 7 and then divide by 5.05. So Heiress needs to have her true speed be at least 264.16. And you can see here that I've got her at 265.86. So she is fast enough for this to stay in sync on Spirit. And then we've got one other condition to worry about, which is the same function of Seeker, 190.57. But this time we need our DPS to be a certain amount slower than Seeker. So we're going to multiply by 7.15, divide by 7.8. So we can see that our damage dealer's true speed needs to be under 174.69. And we do have that satisfied because Geomancer is at 173.55. So because we've met those 3 speed conditions, that should allow this team to work against Spirit, because it's taking into consideration the extra tick that Seeker or that Heiress takes of the speed debuff before she cleanses. It's also taken into consideration that sometimes a champion may resist that, and you know that if whether one champion or all champions resist it, then you have to satisfy those conditions. And then the other part is that if she takes the debuff and Seeker does not because of that resist, she needs to be fast enough that she still goes ahead of Seeker, and that's where that speed rule set kind of comes into play. So if you meet those 3 conditions, 245 base speed for Heiress, and then the true speed conditions for her and Geomancer compared to Seeker, then everything should be fine. So my favorite part about this comp is that it's actually a full auto team, just like the Bat Eater. And I've already got the custom AI programmed in here in order to make that work. So what we want to do with Deacon is we want him to have a 1-turn delay on his A2 and then a 2-turn delay on his A3. So we want him to open with the A1, then do the A2, then the A3 after that. And then after that opener, he's going to continue on cooldown to use the abilities when we need him to. For Geomancer, we really don't need to change anything there at all, so we can leave him as is. For Seeker, it's really simple. We just need a 1-turn delay on his A2, so he's going to open with the A1. For Demytha, we just want to prioritize her A3, and she's going to go in the order of A3, A2, A1 by the way that we have this configured. And then for Heiress, like some of the other comps, all we need to do is plug in a first priority for her A2, and that's just because on auto, sometimes she will not use that when she needs to if she doesn't have anything to cleanse. So if we put that 1-turn or that first priority in there for her A2, then it forces her to do that on cooldown, which is what we need in order to stay Affinity friendly. Okay, so I've been waiting for the clan boss to go Spirit on Ultra Nightmare in order to be able to test this and kind of show you guys it working in action, so here we go. It is full auto team, so I don't have to do any of the setup. What we just did in the AI system takes care of that. But I do kind of want to walk you through what happens here as it starts to fall into sync. So Demytha opens with that block damage. It's going to fall off of everybody. It doesn't actually do anything in the beginning other than to kind of set up her cooldowns to where they're in sync for when they're needed. So after everything goes through turn count 1, we're going to have the second AoE, and you're going to see that decreased speed debuff go out. And then the important part, in order for this to work, is that right after the decreased speed goes out, then Heiress is going to be the first one to go, and then here she goes with her cleanse. So we can only afford to take 1 tick of that decreased speed debuff. All those speed rules and the considerations that I kind of went over earlier are to make sure that that 1 tick of the speed debuff does not throw things out of whack. So regardless whether the entire team takes the buff or debuff, or whether they all resist it, or whether one champion resists it, those speed rules are put into play to where there's enough of a wiggle that it's going to stay in sync for the rest of the fight. So what we should see every single time is that the clan boss is going to take their turn, Heiress goes first, throws out a cleanse, and that's going to take care of either the stun or the affinity debuff, and then it's going to go through to the end to where Demytha is going to throw up the block damage like right now, right before the clan boss goes. So the neat part here is because we have Heiress in that 5th spot, which is the bottom left one on the champion selection screen, then the clan boss is going to prefer to hit Geomancer, who's in the 2nd slot, instead of her. And again, that steadfast mastery that's on Heiress is going to be the other thing that kind of helps the clan boss prefer not to target her. It's considered an extra buff by the clan boss, and he's going to prefer to hit Geomancer instead. So this is a long fight. It's going to take like 20 minutes, similar to Bat Eater or any of the other 2-to-1 teams. So I'm going to speed this up, let it play through, and I'll meet you here at the end, and we're going to see if this is going to do enough to 1-key. All right, guys, 76 million damage, which is absolutely mental because this is 4 epics and a rare against Ultra Nightmare. Probably also this team's worst affinity because we've got 2 weak damage dealers in here from Geomancer and Rhazin. So amazing comp. Thank you, Face Melter, for coming up with this. Thank you, Deadwood Jedi, for kind of first putting it out there and showing it off on the test server. And then ShortOnSkillz, you're the boss for making this thing work on Spirit. You've unlocked a world of possibilities for making people get into that 1 and 2 key damage range for the clan boss just based off of this team. So you guys are awesome for putting this together. So Deacon, you were looking at 12 million as neutral affinity. Geomancer almost 24 million here. So he is the not quite in that 50 million Turvold range, but still very respectable for an epic champion that was a guaranteed champion when they did that event a while back. Demytha, again, she's not the damage dealer where she's only got that 1 hit per cycle, but 6.6 million from her. Seeker smacking at a little over 18 million. Those attack percent boosts really help out his damage. And then Heiress, her toxic set isn't really going to be affected by affinity changes, so she's pretty steady on her damage, but 15.3 from her. Excellent work from a rare champion. So there we go. I'm going to kind of kick this back, reset it, and then we will plug in Rhazin. I'll run a key there to kind of show you how that does in comparison. I don't expect it to be as good because, this team is kind of built with increased attack and all the buffs that are going to help out Geomancer more than what Rhazin would get, but we're going to try it just because he should be a very attainable champion just from the fusion. All right, so the Rhazin key is almost done here. We're not going to get into that 1 key territory just like I thought, but 55 million, almost 56 million is still a very respectable amount of damage. It's going to be an easy 2 key even if you don't have very good gear. So 56 mil, let's see here. We've got Deacon doing 10.5 and Rhazin doing 9 himself. So I did turn off his A3 in the custom AI just because we want him to have more A1s in there, and we want him to have more Giant Slayer possibilities. So that's the only thing I had to change in terms of the AI configuration versus Geo. For Demytha, 6.2, Seeker 15.8, almost 16 mil, and Heiress a little over 14 mil. So the reason why Deacon, Seeker, and Heiress dropped a little bit in damage is just because of Rhazin's uptime on a weaken not being quite as good as what Geomancer has. Since his is a hit, it can weak hit, and then you're going to have that happen 30% or so of the time. And then also it's only a 2-turn duration versus the 3 turns. So that's kind of the main fall off there is with the weaken uptime. If you guys have Brackus, or if you have Sissia Flametongue, or if you have Elder Scarg, or any of the other Force champions, Eothar, something like that, that you want to put into this team, just in the comments, just share kind of how this team did for you, just to make sure that those are all 2 key capable teams. Again, I think Sissia might even be a 1 key team, so I'd be curious to hear from some of y'all who build this team how it worked for you in the comments. All right, guys, that's going to be all for this one, so I hope you enjoyed the team. If you try to build this on your own, just keep in mind those speed rules that I went over earlier, and when you're plugging your stuff in the calculator, make sure you're including your speed sets, your perception sets, and then whether your champions have the lower steel mastery, since those can all affect your true speed. As long as you do that, I think you'll be just fine. So what's next on the channel? I've got some stuff I want to fool around with in Arena. So I've got 2 Rule the Huntmasters, and I've actually built one of them to be a setup and the other one to be a nuke. So we're going to fool around with that a little bit in Arena. I don't think it's really a plat viable comp, but it's still something that could be a little fun if you don't have other champions. Plus, I think with Hydra Boss coming and some of the leaks that have been out there, that Hex might become a very important component of the fight. So we might need to be dusting off some of those Hex champions. So until then, I've been the Dragon's Beard. Thank you for watching.